Hello, and welcome to Thursday's version of school. I'm at home in my COVID room because I do have COVID, and I've been taking care of my son who wasn't feeling well on Sunday, and now he feels awesome, but still can't go to school. And I'm not feeling bad, but I'm not feeling great either. So there you go. So I just wanted to show you what I would like for you to work on today. And this is hard because I'm not there and I want to be there with y'all. So hopefully you've evaluated sources. You've corroborated the make your case. So you didn't have to turn that in, by the way. Thank you for some of you asked me where to turn it in. You don't have to. I wanted to be there to kind of go through it with you. Contextualization. Did y'all decide what to do with Max and Justin yesterday? So you have to have the bigger picture to make a better decision. That's what that's all about. The last skill that I want us to practice is called close reading. And this is really looking at the details of whatever document or picture or piece of music that you are observing with anything, okay? Not just historical documents, okay? And so what I wanted to do was practice doing that with you. And as you recall on your historical thinking chart, your green chart, of course, these are the questions that we ask when we're close reading. So, what is basically the author trying to say here? Does the author use any evidence to prove their point? This one is the biggie one. What language does the author use to persuade the document's audience? It could be words. I think we talked about that earlier. Phrases, images, and symbols. Those are very powerful and can make you think a certain way. So that's what we have to really look at. And does the author's language or image show the author's point of view or perspective? You better believe it, mister. It does. Okay. So we were going to practice that together by first doing a close reading of a picture. It seems a little easier to do. So I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to try to model that for you. Okay. And again, so reading a picture is something we do every day, especially when we look at advertisements in magazines, newspapers, or another venue like a web page. In fact, companies depend on us to read advertisements and bring a meaning to the picture. So we're doing that almost instantaneously. Okay. Either making a judgment on the company or making a judgment on the person who's wearing the advertisement. I mean, look at your shirt, your hat, you're advertising something. Excuse me. So reading a picture is a great way to help you begin to look closely at an image and think about the embedded meaning. So this may sound really elementary to you and what we're about to do, but I think if you really closely look at this photograph, you might find a little more deeper meaning. So I think I blew this up. Yeah, there it is. There's the image, not me, this. All right. So what we do when we look at a photograph, and we'll be doing this especially when the Civil War starts, when we get into the Civil War, because that's when photography really became easy to do and lots of photographs were taken. So this is our practice run. So we want to examine the picture, and we might do that for 30 seconds or so and really look at it. What is the makeup of the picture? So here's like something you would do automatically, maybe in your head or not. It says, at first glance, after the quick reading, I'm thinking, oh, it's a boy and his dog. But then I take a longer look and I notice some details in the picture. I notice that the boy is talking to the dog. How do I know this? So that his mouth is open and he's kind of leaning in towards the dog. Okay. So he's leaning in and he's holding the dog's leg firmly. It looks like the dog is kind of in the boy's lap because you can see his leg here. And he's kind of like almost maybe on his rear, the dog is, or on his back, sort of. Though I also noticed that the dog looks relaxed and pretty content. And it says it also appears that they're in a park and that the dog has some sort of scarf around its neck. So maybe other things that this hasn't pointed out is other things. How do we even know it's a park? Well, we don't see anything else behind here, but just grass. However, we do see a shadow. So it looks like maybe an open field. Maybe a tree is over here because of the shadow. It's obviously sunny. It might be warm, like spring or summer, because the boy is wearing short sleeves and shorts. You can see his leg here. But there's also something else that you might have noticed or not. So what about the color of the photograph? It's black and white. So sometimes, our original photos were in black and white, so that might indicate that it's old. But if you look at, the quality of this photo, it's not. It's not an old photograph. So what do you think the photographer might be trying to say? What might black and white indicate that this photographer might be saying? I know in the past, a lot of students have been like, oh, well, maybe it's like a memory. Maybe the dog is dead, and so trying to remember the dog, or other such things such as that. Okay, so that is a very brief reading about a picture or with a picture. So step 3, I shared my ideas at least about what the picture means. Here's some other deeper thinking. Said we could wonder about the relationship between the boy and the dog. I wonder if the artist was portraying like utopia vision of what childhood should look like. Maybe. Where every child has a pet. You might find absolutely no connection to the picture as it might not show what you think of as an owner pet relationship. Maybe we could also look at the picture and see if it's saying anything about our world. I think a bit of a stereotype is portrayed in the picture about how every child should have a pet and be in love with his best friend. That's one interpretation. It's not one I thought of, but it's what the author did. Okay? So there's a close reading of a photograph. Here's another one I want to show you. It's not a photograph, it's a cartoon. So similarly, you're going to take a look at the photo or the cartoon, and you might chuckle to yourself because you're immediately seeing what's going on here. Okay, but what other details are you looking at? Okay. So the essential question is, what is the cartoon saying? Okay. So if this is our first read, I'm noticing that the cat is obviously injured because he's got the little sling around here and his little band-aids, and it looks like he's been cut up a little bit right here because of how it's drawn. Do you see the tail with the little marks here? Like he's shaking. He's obviously doing what? He's gesturing with his hand. And he's talking basically to the police artist. And how do we know he's a police artist? Because it says on backwards here, it's describing the suspect to the police artist, and the police artist is drawing the suspect as the cat talks, which obviously is an angry dog. How do we know he's angry? Well, take a look at his eyes. Take a look at his fur. It's kind of like bristled up. Look at his mouth, baring his teeth. Okay. What is the police artist thinking? Take a look at that. He's like, do what? I don't know. And it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Probably not at night. All right. So in the second reading, we need to think about how the artist shows us what the text says. Remember, we focus on how does the cartoon say it. This is where the details come in. It says this author says it through the illustration's details. Notice the cat's hand waving in the air as he describes the suspect. Notice the injuries. Look at the dog. Look at the context of the room the two characters are in. Obviously, the cat thinks this is a crime. Notice the look on the face of the police artist and the ability of the police artist to capture what the cat is describing. So we did that already. We looked at it, made an instant judgment based on what we've seen. It's what our eyes are so important that we use them all the time and make, all that information is coming in so fast and we make decisions very quickly. So in the third reading, okay, we look at it again. So what does this text mean? I want you to think about what the text means. In this simple cartoon, the artist is trying to get us to smile and laugh. So that's the purpose, right? And you might have chuckled when you saw it. The process that is used in police work is made funny because it is a cat that is injured and describing the suspect, which is a dog. We know it's written in the US because in the United States, we consider cats and dogs enemies. Maybe that's a cultural thing. So it may not be the same in Europe or Asia or even in Africa. Okay, so you just did a close reading with 3 readings of this cartoon. So we're looking at the literal meaning. After the third meaning or reading, we were asking and answering questions about the text meaning, which would be the cartoon, and evaluated the picture to determine the deeper meaning. Okay, so again, we do this pretty quickly with visual aids and make a judgment on it. Okay, so the last thing you got to do is actually practice on a text. All right, so let's close read a text. This is where you're going to need to get out. Actually, you're not going to do it on paper. You're going to do it on Kami on the internet. But when I do hand out items like things to read, you will have a pencil and you will need a highlighter. Okay, but you'll be able to highlight and write on the document. Okay, so now you've practiced with a picture and cartoon. Now it's time to read, and you'll find a short article called "A Day at School in Kyrgyzstan" by Catherine Hulick on the next link. So when we close read, you're actually going to mark all over the text. Okay, and you may have done this in other classes. So usually we don't talk about the text first. We talk about it after we give it a go. So I would like you to mark up the page with your ideas about the text. Remember, just like when we examine the picture in a cartoon, we think about the question, what does the text say? What is the meaning? Why did Catherine Hulick actually write this? So here are some ways that you can mark up your text, and I'm going to help you do this. Go through it with you. So highlight and mark it up the way you want to. You need to write down 2 questions. Like legit questions. Like you might be reading it and you're like, I don't understand. So that's what you want to write down. Okay. And then at the end, I want you to write down the author's point. Like, why did our author actually write this? Okay. So I'm going to go back to this because I'm going to have it pop up for you. Okay. So again, here's the close reading. It should pop up. Your job is to closely read this text. I want you to highlight things that are interesting. Put a question mark by something you don't understand. I want you to write down 2 questions that you have, and I want you to answer the question, why did the author write this? So you're going to open it up. Here it is. We're going to open it up with Kami. And you know what? I was grading your evaluating sources, and at first I was like, well, they downloaded it without the annotations. Well, I figured out, I think, not that you didn't, but it downloaded weird. So I'm going to show you how to do that. All right, so a day at school in Kyrgyzstan. So you can mark up with a highlighter things that are interesting. Okay, well, I pass vendors setting up shops, families driving donkey carts. Like, what the heck? Where are these people going? Okay, where the heck is Kyrgyzstan? Oh, that's a good question. All right, so I'm gonna where is this place? Okay, that's one question. All right, I'm gonna mark up Peace Corps. What the heck is a Peace Corps? Oh, where's Kyrgyzstan? It's in Central Asia. Okay. Svetyok. Oh, I'm like, what does that mean? Okay, it's the Kyrgyz word for no electricity. All right. So that's what I want you to do is to keep going through here. It's only one page with two columns. Okay. And I want you to highlight. I don't care what color you use as long as it's a highlighter. And then wherever you want to write two questions, but at the bottom, I want you to write why the author wrote this. Not necessarily what you think. You're making a judgment while you read, and that's okay. But there might be a reason why she is writing this. So something that you might want to take a look at is the source. This was printed in the Teens Around the World in 2007. So consider the audience. All rights reserved, permission. Okay. So here's what I want you. Oh my gosh. Okay, stop. This is what I want you to do. I want you to go to save it to Google Drive. Uploading to Google Drive. Uploading. 100%. All saved changes. And we've uploaded it to, okay, I'm just double checking because I'm going to go back and make a submission and double check to make sure can I do it in my student? We'll see. Don't worry about, look, see the due date? It says September 16th, 2020. I'm changing that, okay? But here's how I'm going to grade you on it. Did you highlight it, make other marks? Did you put down two questions? Did you write down the meaning behind the text? Okay, why can't? Okay, of course. I have to change the due date for me to upload it, but you should be able to, okay? I'll fix that. So that's what I want you to do. I'm sure that was riveting, but it is practice that needs to happen because we will be doing it on like at least a weekly basis. All right. So that shouldn't be too difficult for you to do. Close reading a day at school in Kyrgyzstan, and you might find it kind of interesting. Okay. All right. Start.